Self.
All right, let's go 3, 2, and 1. All right, welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool.
Sean, today I think we're going to have a lot of fun. In fact, I think this is going to be one of our best episodes ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So our guest in the green room's like, oh man, that's a lot of pressure.
That is pressure. Especially when you consider his background. He obviously didn't come to play. So
we're going to be talking marketing, persuasion, all kinds of stuff from lessons from a Hollywood actor, writer, director. Yeah. And I'm not going to mention his name yet, but I got to tell you, he's got quite the background.
I watched the demo reel and I was surprised. I was like, oh, yeah. So one of those, like, you see him and like, oh, I've watched probably all of those shows and seen him and did not, obviously did not know the name.
Yep.
But yeah, 30 years in Hollywood. That's pretty impressive. We'll also be talking a little bit about some cult stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. And this one, I was listening to his pod. Yeah, this is crazy because I was listening to his podcast, and this particular cult, I've heard about them in the past from some other shows. I think it was a documentary or something like that in the past. This is crazy. It's going to be interesting. So,
wow. I didn't know maybe some of your family members had been in or what.
So, and he's got a beverage, so we can invite him out of the green room.
All right. Welcome to the show, Dar Dixon.
Mr. McCool with the coolest name ever, right?
No, it can't be any cooler than Dar. I mean,
Dar is pretty.
All right. Full disclosure. I am the god of rock and roll. My friend, I have a friend named Thor, by the way. If you hear this ever, Thor, if you ever hear this, reach out, contact me. It's easy to do. Seriously though, the guy's name was Thor, and I think that was his middle name. And so we would go out and drink. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, let me just crack my beverage. I brought free advertising. Stella, I expect you to
send those checks.
Stella,
right.
We're still waiting on all of ours from the 200 plus beers we've done. So,
well, I've got a lawyer, man. We can make that happen.
Okay, now you're talking our language, right? We can work out.
We used to go out and Thor he was from the Boston area, so it was like, Dad, let's go out. Let's go out, man. So we go out to the bars, and this was in San Diego.
Yeah.
And the bartender would go like, "Hey, where are you from?" Point to Thor, and he goes, "From Boston." And he goes, "Are you from Boston?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." "What's your name?" I'm like, "Well, I'm Dar." His name's Thor. He's like, "Wait a minute, Thor?" And Dar goes, "Yeah, I'm Thor, and that's Da." Never had to pay for another drink all day.
That's awesome.
I should say. Yeah.
That's
glorious.
That's nice.
So I listen to your podcast. I know that I know the reference. I know the background of your name, and you can talk about that when we get into it. So it's kind of interesting because it's got some biblical roots there. So I love that.
Wow, look at you.
Okay. Yeah. So, but we got to introduce you to our audience because our audience members out there are like, okay, all right, you teased us enough. So we have Dar Dixon. He's an accomplished Hollywood veteran, over 30 years of experience in the industry as an actor, writer, director, producer. Has more than 300 credits under his belt, with 46 listed on the imdb.com site, and got a list of things that he's been a part of. Many of our listeners, I mean, Sean just talked about it. We both have watched NCIS Los Angeles, Criminal Minds. I mean, Supergirl, Silicon Valley. Yeah, this is us. Absolutely.
Recently.
Silicon Valley, that was a good show. I saw I remember you from that. So that's
it was fun.
Yeah. So that's welcome to the show once again. I gotta give you another round here.
Wow. So. 2 applauses. 2 tracks.
Oh, and another interesting thing too. You are a trained hypnotist, right?
Wow, man, you did your research. Very impressive. I got to just give an applause. Applause here.
Yeah, I can't give myself applause here. I'm not allowed to. Sean won't
Well, I
allow
just did. I'll do it again. Double time. Yeah, I did. That was a part of the an unexpected, not planned at all part of my recovery from being in a cult that you mentioned about.
Yeah. Okay.
And I became a certified hypnotherapist.
Very cool.
Oh man, I can't wait to get into that. All right. So before we jump in, we hit our regular reviews, and you held up one. You teased us with what you're having, obviously, and now Sean and I will kind of share what we're having with the audience. Sean, we'll start with you, man.
Well, 'tis the season, so I went with a Halloween themed stout. It's a pumpkin stout, so it's from Wasatch Brewery, Black O'Lantern. Can never get that camera going the right way.
Well played,
pumpkin
sir.
stout,
Black O'Lantern.
And check this out, right? So Halloween. Check out the alcohol content. Let's see. See that? 6.66% alcohol by volume. Kind of scary, but so this it says, what kind of madman would cross an imperial stout with a pumpkin ale?
Yeah,
our brewers, as it turns out, this rich chocolatey Frankenbrew is dry spiced and scary good. Boo. So
boo.
Yeah, so it says 6 point. I love the
6.6.
As I mean, like, how hard did they have to work to get that dialed in to that?
Hold that can up one more time. I just want to. I love that.
Wasatch Black O'Lantern. It's satanically good.
Yes.
Devilishly tasty.
6.66. I wonder if they worked really hard to get that right on the nose. Yeah. I mean, it's just like test and retest.
I'm sure that's accurate too.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right down to the whole number.
Got us talking about it, didn't it?
That's right. That's right. That's all it takes.
I actually didn't notice it when I picked it up, but when I was getting ready for the show, it's like, oh, that's clever. I like that. So,
all right.
Super dark as any imperial stout should
nice.
Be.
Sean, you and I are on the same page today.
But you've been bringing out the pumpkin ales the last couple of weeks. So I was like,
not today.
Not today. My pumpkin game.
Well, you did. You got the pumpkin stout. So I just have the stout today. It's actually an almond milk stout.
Oh, wow.
So let me first hold up the.
Is that like in honor of our California guest?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. I'm being vegan today. Almond milk stout.
Yeah.
Wow.
No milk whatsoever. No lactose. So this one is by our friends over at Sweetwater Brewing. Super stouty, nice balance with Callous Coup. This Callous Coup is an authentic tasting milk stout that features flavors of roasted coffee, milk, and dark chocolates. Almond flavor with some roasted malt smooths. It's all for a new mainstream brew. 5.4% though, not too heavy. 25 IBUs. So
we're kind of light today on our beers. So.
Yeah. Very light.
I begs the question: what is the strongest alcohol content either of you drank?
On the show.
On the show? 13. Was it?
No, it was that one I sent you. It was like 16%.
Oh, that's right. 16%, which I don't think you can get that at you have to get that at a liquor store, right?
No, we had that I got it off the shelf at HEB here. So.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what it was. Remember it wasn't.
That's right.
Taste great. It was tastes like cough syrup.
That's right. Because I remember I drank it after right after COVID, so nothing tasted right then. I didn't give it a fair rating.
Yeah, no, I think you did. It just one of those things. Yeah. Anything that gets over 12 or 13 starts to get really medicine-y tasting.
That's right. Yeah.
So it definitely does.
Yeah. We like that Dar, 10 to 12. That's a good range.
So let's hold up, Dar. What you teased this earlier? You kind of give us a hint.
I am imbibing in
good old Stella.
The good old Stella from Belgium.
Yep.
It tastes like glory and dreams with maybe a smattering of unicorn dust.
Wow.
the first time I ever ordered that, I think in my southern dialect said, "Give me one of those Stella Artois."
Nice. Nice.
So you said that was kind of your go-to, Dar. So,
I'm not a big drinker.
Mhm.
I'm a huge drinker.
Yeah.
Don't encourage the bad jokes. It's just what I had. I was drinking.
Sure.
I got a buddy who used to run a bar in Vegas, and he had one of the most extensive beer and wine lists, but beers for sure.
Okay.
Probably anywhere in the country. Sadly, it no longer exists. That's a huge story. But he and I will every once in a while talk about beers and stuff. And he was the guy who introduced me to, man, I can't remember it. It had I want to say about a 24% alcohol.
Good. Wow.
Yeah, it was insane. I could be off on that, but not by much. And, I'm in Las Vegas, and then you're always dehydrated there. And I drank, it was like a little thing like you're drinking there, John.
And, probably like a quad ale or something like that.
I just was, I was thrown for a loop after the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
What do you rate that on a scale? We do 1 to 5 pints here, 5 being the best.
God bless Stella. I'll give you a 5 just because you're Stella.
Wow.
But the taste is, there are others that I like more, but it's beer, man. So you can't really go too horribly bad, unless my personal thing, if you drink, what's really popular, the IPA.
Oh yeah, we hate those around here.
Right? Yeah.
It's literally spoiled beer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like bitter skunk.
Yep. Absolutely. You're talking our language. We say the
pine
same
sol. It tastes like pine sol too. Like if it gets too much pine in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no good.
All right. Well, Jonathan, let's do our cheers, and we'll
get
these suckers.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers. I'm so mannered. I drank way before you guys did.
That's all right.
Didn't offer a cheers or anything, so
that is quite all right.
Yeah.
All right. So, Sean, you're next on the rating scale. Give it to us. Let us know what the 666 rating really is.
Yeah. So I feel like this is going to be one of those ones that it needs that air a little while.
Yeah.
It's not great at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's too strong or anything. It's just got a weird. I'm trying to figure. I don't think it's the pump. I think it is. I think it is the mix of the ale, because you get that little ale aftertaste.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's competing with like the chocolate and the stout. So it's like, it's just a weird back and forth. My mouth doesn't know what's going on. So it's like, so I'm going to give this a 3.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
Not
pretty
great.
Low. Yeah. Pretty low for a stout around here. So
yeah.
I was, but yeah, we'll see if it, once it numbs my taste buds for a while, it'll get better, I guess.
Well, I'm giving this one a 4 or 5. It's pretty good. It reminds me a lot of a Guinness. I mean, almost it tastes just like a Guinness. So
can't go wrong.
Yeah, that's a good way to
solid
keep selling beer right there.
So, Sean, I think I know why you guys aren't getting paid. If that thing tastes like ass, you still go, yummy.
Take that no, we've given some pretty bad ratings.
Yeah, especially in the IPA department.
I wonder why we're not getting our checks.
Yeah. You may have a point there. You may have a point there.
Yeah, people, the brewers, the advertisers really want you to sell their product for them.
That's right.
That's so weird. That's weird.
It gets
we don't know anything.
We'd like them to make a good product. I don't know what we're asking for.
That's right. That's right. That's all we ask.
The intersection of reality and commerce.
Yeah.
Oh man, we're gonna have a good conversation today. That's for sure.
All right, well, speaking of that, let's roll into it.
Well, Dar, tell us a little bit. Give us kind of a history. We teased you up, given your bio, but you're obviously you weren't born in the States, were you?
No, I was born in Tehran, Iran. Believe it or not. Yeah, yep. I just happen to look like Steve Apple Pie, but my dad is a swarthy, olive complected Iranian.
Now you're a tall guy too, I got to say, because I saw the episode where you're standing next to Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah,
he's not a short guy, I don't think. So, so what do you stand right now?
I'm 6'3".
6'3". Okay.
That's pretty tall for Hollywood, right?
Yeah, I'm frequently the tallest cat on set.
Yeah.
So a
So,
lot
like,
of what's the weather like up there?
yeah.
And then you have to go, wow, never heard that before.
And then you hand him the little box to stand on.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, you know what ends up happening? Speaking of boxes, they have something in Hollywood. They call them apple boxes, and they come in quarter, half, and full. And so, invariably, when I'm doing a scene with females, they've got to get like a full apple box for them to stand on, so it looks like we're approximating being something in the vicinity of the same height. So that doesn't happen for me.
It's all lies. It's all lies, Jonathan. It's all lies.
All lies.
Much like the rating system, which will get you paid.
That's right. You've got kind of an interesting story. So you were born over there. You came. Your family came to the States. Then you went back, and you had to kind of it was almost escape from there, right?
No, it was an escape for sure. Yeah. So I was born there. It was my first language was Farsi. Came to the States when I was 2. And I had the thick accent, and of course that disappears faster for kids. And, it's just the way kids' brains work. But we grew up in the States mostly. We moved a whole lot. But for me, remembering back and like growing up ish is mostly Northern California, San Francisco and Santa Cruz area. But we did return to Iran. I had 3 more brothers were born. So believe it or not, on my 2nd birthday, we all share the same birthday. Twins were born. So 3 of us had the same birthday, which is July 31st. So I've got 3 other brothers. There's 4 of us. I'm the oldest one. We moved back to Iran because my dad got this unbelievable job offer to work with the Iranian government. And that was in 1974. We left as soon as school was finished. So like 2 weeks after school finished, boom, all of a sudden we're in Iran. And it was great. It was an amazing experience. And we kind of lived a charmed life, if I'm going to be honest with you. He held a position with the Ministry of War, which is the Department of Defense in this country. They call the Ministry of War there.
Sure.
And the Americans and the Iranians were friends back then, believe it or not. And the Americans were helping the Iranians build up their military. So there were a lot of American people there, and went to an American-speaking private school and all that stuff. But my dad ran a company there called Iran Electronics Industries, and he was the president of the southern city, Shiraz, of that division. And he had 2 degrees of separation from the Shah. And the reason I'm telling you all this is because, we came from a middle-class existence in America. All of a sudden we're in Iran, and we lived on this compound. We had this big house. We had maids. We had gardeners. We had chauffeurs. We had armed guards at the gates to the entry of the compound we lived on. They would salute me every time I'd come in with the driver. And I was like, what's going on? And so, a whole different world, a whole different culture, which I was familiar with, but nonetheless, having that kind of a position was bizarre.
Sure.
Anyway, in 77, we got note. My dad did. This is me looking back. Didn't know what was going on at the time. We had to leave the country. It was just me originally. Like, you're going to go to school in America, and we'll get together on the holidays and good times. And I was like, all right, well, that sounds cool. America, no family. All right, I like that. And we got to the States, and I'll never forget it. We were sitting in the hotel room in Midtown Manhattan because we landed at JFK. And my mom's on the phone in the bedroom, and we're out in, like, I don't know, it was a big suite, and we're watching TV, but I could hear her talking, and it looked, all the color drained from her face, like she'd seen a ghost. And then she let us know, like, we're never going back. That's over. And your father may or may not get out. And that was the beginning of the end. And all we had were the suitcases in our hands and the clothes on our back. And that was it. We lost our house. We lost bank accounts, lost money, lost land. We lost everything, literally, all the furniture, nothing. So we had to start over from scratch.
Wow.
You said that was what, 77? So
that was 1977. Yeah, but we were lucky because a lot of people didn't do as well. But it was a rough time. And,
You know, it was funny. Just this week, I was watching the movie because I was on a flight to Dallas, and I downloaded a movie, Argo. Do you remember that movie with about the
Absolutely.
Iranian hostage crisis? And they created the fake movie.
The movie, right? Argo, the science fiction movie, Argo.
Yeah.
That was a good movie.
It was.
The CIA intervenes again. Oops, did I say that out loud?
Yeah.
Just for our listening audience, the CIA intervened, and a democratically elected prime minister in Iran during 1954, his name was Mohammad Mossadegh, or Mossadegh, as they would say in English.
Mm-hmm.
And again, democratically elected. But the United States of America didn't think that was going to be good because Iran sits on an ocean of oil. And so they overthrew it. And this gentleman that was the Shah became the ruler of the country.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah. I just brought the show to a grinding halt.
Now let's get in the good stuff.
Okay. You know,
how'd you get in a cult?
How'd I get in a cult? Exactly. I zigged when I should have zagged.
That'll do it.
You know, and that'll do it. You know, I thought they said make a right up at the next light. I made a left.
Yeah.
Should have been a left in Albuquerque.
Exactly. I mean, everybody knows that. Why didn't I get the memo?
Got that every other Saturday morning when Bugs did the wrong turn.
Exactly. Cheers to that. It's interesting. No one ever goes and joins a cult. Like, you guys got a cult? Hey, can I join?
Yeah.
You think you're getting involved with, or you're friendly with, or you just met some cool people, and you have a simpatico. You have shared interests, and maybe even kindred spirit. And in short order, you find out. In short order, I mean, it can be anywhere from a couple of weeks to a few days. You know, there's no like timeline of how it happens.
Did the person inviting you know it was a cult, or do you not know as long as you're in because you really see it as a cult?
Well, that's a great question. The way I got involved was I met the leader of the cult, and he would never have called it a cult. You know, right. He was just he was just he was a trip. He was a trip. Unlike anyone I met, a full-blown sociopath. That's the truth. Yeah, full-blown sociopath. And I so to answer that question, I'd say no, he didn't know that, but he did know he was running game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best answer I can give you.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of that. We've talked recently about Nexium, the cult.
Sure. Yeah.
And man, there's that whole documentary. It's interesting because the guy's very, I find it interesting that typically the leaders are very charismatic people. That's right. They have answers to everything, right? And so they draw a following because they share a new way of thinking or a new way of doing things. And they tend to have a lot of answers, but they're all charismatic. I mean, they're positive thinking people. And you think, oh, what's wrong with this guy? But
I think what's interesting is like on the outside looking in, or if you see a show, like you would be like, oh, I wouldn't fall for that. But when you're in the room with and you know this probably better than any of us, Dar, because you're surrounded by very charismatic people in your industry.
Sure.
And there's a lot of, that's why they make it to the top. And like when you're in the room and you feel that, I think there's something different than like if you're watching it, to actually feel that.
100%. That's a good observation. Right. It's a good observation.
So what was that like? I mean, how was he able to, since it wasn't, I mean, you said he knew he was running a game, but did he use specific tactics, or was it just this pure charisma that was working?
No. It's interesting. I'm writing a book right now about the about brainwashing, and how I worked my way out of that, which I did largely on my own, which hardest thing I've ever done in my life, bar none. But that brainwashing that occurs in cults also occurs in hate groups. It occurs with racism. It occurs politically. And it occurs with multi-level marketing and all kinds of stuff. It does. It's a dynamic that's at play across our country, across the world, and most people are unaware of it. So to answer your question more specifically, now that I've said that, a young lady wrote a book recently that just came out in June, and she's a linguistics grad. And so naturally, her focus is on language. And her contention is that language is the driving factor with cults. Bullshit.
Yeah.
She's not totally wrong, but language alone does not dictate being able to entrain, capture, and lead a person's mind or thinking or behavior. It's a whole combination of things. And so the charisma comes in because you got to have something to capture the attention to interrupt a person's pattern, going into marketing, right?
Yeah.
Or neurolinguistic programming, which you guys have talked about. You got to break that state of thought that they're in. So charisma is like the initial thing. And then generally speaking, without getting really granular, because I don't want to bore everybody, but you get love bombed. And what love bombing is just this overwhelming adoration, adulation, and love coming at you. And literally the phrase, I love you, and oh, you're so great, you're the best, you're amazing.
Yeah.
And that's the initial thing. And whether we want to admit it or not, everybody really enjoys that. And if you have the background that I did, I didn't get that enough in the way that I needed it. So when it came at me, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then the next thing I knew, it wasn't interesting. This was really screwed up.
Yeah.
And I felt this intense loyalty to the group and to him. And I could never understand why, because my feelings, my guts were telling me, run, motherfucker, run.
Mm-hmm.
But, the other part of me was like, just push those feelings down and put them in a box and then throw them away and lock it up. Don't ever.
Well, you mentioned love bombs. And I mean, when you say that, the first thing that came into my mind was like social media. Like we all know we should be on it less. Like our gut tells us that.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're like, well, I wonder how many likes I got on that last picture I put up or that last post I made. Did anybody like it? Did anybody comment?
Right.
Because that's the love bombs. I mean, that's what those notifications are, right? They're basically
I mean, that's interesting. I never heard it put that way before, but that's not wrong. That's not wrong. It's really devious with social media. Just a little sidetrack. They have some very bright coders and programmers there.
Oh yeah,
who design all of this to stimulate those parts of your brain that will make you keep on coming back, keep on checking the phone. Did I get a like? Did someone retweet me? Right? How many views do I have on TikTok?
Yeah.
And if you slow down checking, they'll send you an email and tell you about something that's going on or whatever. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, a friend of mine talks about. He's like in different periods of time, the smartest people went to different industries, and right now the smartest people in the world. It used to be they went to Wall Street. Now the smartest people in the world are going to the tech giants, social media companies, things like that. Who knows where they'll go next? But that's kind of
where the smartest people go.
Podcast host.
That's the number one position. It's odd that you would say that. It's that we all have a podcast. Who would ever know, right?
That's right.
Seemed logical to me.
But the thing, if you look at governments, people in positions of power, let's just say governments, when they want to find smart people, they go to a number of different places. I can't say one thing, but they usually frequent. This is intelligence agencies always frequent these places. Is the linguistics department, and the linguistics majors, because that's where it starts. So when this woman wrote this book, I was like, well, that's interesting. She's wrong, of course, but I can see why she talked about linguistics and language being the way. But let's see what she has to say, because once you can shape and form a narrative and then repeat that narrative, you're screwed. It's just the way the human brain is designed. We really haven't evolved that much in the past couple of million years.
Yeah, for sure.
So how did you get out? You talked about becoming a trained hypnotist. How played a big part in you getting out of this?
Yeah, getting out it's a long story, which we don't really have time for here. But when I got out, I was just like a hot mess. I didn't know if I was coming or going. And I finally it was like about 2 or 3 years later after I'd gotten out. I'd already met the woman who would become my wife, and she grew up in the seat of the civil rights movement. My father-in-law and my mother-in-law were like co-founders of the civil rights movement. And my father-in-law and his best friend was Martin Luther King Jr. They were the ones who went out and did they got the front page battle. But the women were the backbone of the movement, as they are in most movements. Yeah. Side note. So she kind of started to shift my thinking and seeing that my plight was really nothing compared to the plight of Black folks really helped me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it put a fantastic perspective on things for me. It didn't solve everything, but then I met up one of the guys who was in the cult with me, and he basically was one of the primary funders of the whole thing. He'd become a supermodel when I first got involved. We both kind of got involved around the same time, and his career took off, and he became one of the first male supermodels. And he just used to he gave all of his money, like $4.5 million, I think it was, to this cult with no receipts. He's a Princeton grad and an economics major. Like, these people who get caught up in cults are not dumb people. It's not a mental defect. What it is, it's emotional. That's where the hook is all the time.
Sure. Yep.
So to answer your question,
they're filling a need. They're filling a void there.
Very wise. Very wise. You're accurate. That's right. You got to get your needs met in some way. Sometimes they're beneficial to you and to everyone else, and other times they're beneficial to you and just really bad for everyone else involved.
Yeah.
So he and I got an apartment in West Los Angeles, and we lived together for a year. And in that year, we actually got to know each other for the first time, really on a human level, without all the filters of the cult in there, and, it got to the point where he's like, "Hey, do you remember that time when that happened?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "That was messed up, wasn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, that was messed up." "Hey, you remember this time when so-and-so said this and then that happened and you did that?" I was like, "Yeah, that was really fucked up." I was like, "Yeah, it was." And we started to work our way out of it. And then finally one night he looks at me and goes, "Dude, I think we were in a cult." And I remember my head just went, and then, the old Charlie Brown, the Peanuts commercial where the teacher would go, wah, 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 wah. And he was talking, and that's all I was hearing for a good minute. And it was just like, holy crap. At that point, I realized I needed to get help. So I went to a place that no longer exists, sadly. It's one of the only places in this country that treated people who've been in a cult or abusive relationships, because the dynamic is very much the same. And after that, I was like, I still need help, guys. And I realized that I was going to have to work my way out on my own. And so I started to research, go to the library. What a concept, right? Study. And I left like no stone unturned. And I had to figure out what had happened to me, how it happened to me, why it happened to me. And that's how I learned about neurolinguistic programming. That's how I became a hypnotherapist. I learned about persuasion. I learned about influence, manipulation, psychology, sales, the sales process, neurology, neuroscience, the whole thing. But I guess I got geeked out on it a little bit. But I had to do it to understand why and how it happens. So
yeah, and you said you're writing a book on the whole brainwashing and that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
You mentioned capturing attention. You mentioned love bombs. What other things have you kind of been able to look back and see that happened, the tactics that were used?
I've got a friend who's one of the leading cult experts in the world, and he got caught up in the Moonies. And I bet that the audience may be wondering, the cult I was involved with, for lack of a better name, was called the Eternal Values. The leader's name he called himself Frederick von Mears. His real name was Fred Myers, or he used to go by Freddie Myers. And then he changed it to Freddie von Myers, and then he changed it to Frederick von Mears. And but there was like a progression, and I could never get the answers to this, but my buddy Hoyt, the guy I was just talking about, and I have kind of started to piece all this together. So Steve Hassan is our friend, and he's a PhD. He's one of the leading cult experts in the world. He got caught up in the Moonies. He was only in his cult for 2 years. Hoyt and I were caught up in it for 20 years. Wow. So huge difference.
Yeah.
But he put together a model. This was even before he did his dissertation, and it's called the Byte Model, BITE. And B stands for behavior, I stands for information, T stands for thought, and E stands for emotion. And in that model, under each one of those letters, there are, it's quadrants, those 4 quadrants. It explains the ways in which people can get caught up and led down a path other than one they would like to be on. And it happens a lot more frequently than anyone ever realizes. It's happening right now. Won't make this political, but it's happening right now in this country. And, that's kind of what precipitated me to write the book, because I'm watching this. I'm like, this is unbelievable. This is America. Like, what's going on? And the same thing that happened in Iran is now happening here in the States. And like, if we're not careful, we're going to have this Christian Republic of America, but it's going to not be good. Just like, and I hate to say this because I know they're going to hear this, they watch, but the Islamic Republic of Iran is not necessarily the best government for that country. Clearly. And I love Iran. I'm just not a fan of the government or of the authoritarianism or the theocracy. It's not good. It's not good. So that made me start to write this book. I can't get into everything on it, but I really recommend you go check out Steve's website. It's called freedomofmind.com. And his last name is spelled Hassan, and his first name is spelled Steven, Stephen Hassan. Really nice guy, and he's been doing this work for over 45 years. And that's the shortest answer I could give you on that, man.
I'm curious how. So was this prior to your time making your way into Hollywood as an actor, as a writer, or was this around the same time?
Well, I have a saying, and it's art is life and life is art.
Yeah.
Both are non-linear mediums. They're fluid mediums. And instead of it going from here to here, it's more like you go up and down and back and then up and around, right? That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Right.
I started, so I got kicked out of this cult in 1989 after being there 5 years. Who gets kicked out of a cult? This guy.
Right. I mean, I've never heard of getting excommunicated.
Thank you very much. Can I get another round of applause for that?
Yes.
Amazing. So during that time, it's crazy to me. I was talking to a guy that actually knew Freddie back in the day, and who is now subsequently, he was in casting. He's one of the bookers in a modeling agency at the Ford agency. Then he became like the head of casting out here in Hollywood. I forget for which studio. And now he's a professional psychologist. And I was talking to him. Hoyt had given me his name, and I was talking to him, trying to get some information about Freddie back in the day. And he's like, you can have large chunks of time where it feels like you had amnesia. And I was like, you get it.
Yeah.
And so even though I was a hot mess, and I mean a hot mess, didn't know if I was coming or going, still fully brainwashed. I thought I'd blown the opportunity of 25,000 lifetimes. I believe that. I knew that since I was a kid, I always wanted to be an actor. And so I started going to acting class, and then I lucked out. It's the craziest story in the world. I'll tell you quickly. I went to something they call a casting director workshop. I was living in San Diego. I forget the casting director's name right now. I'm so sorry. Barbara, I think was her first name. Anyway, the show was called Silk Stockings, and she cast that show. And she would have people come in, actors and wannabes and whatever else. There's like 75, 100 people in this ballroom down by the harbor and the marina. And we all did scenes, and it took forever and whatever. And at the end of the night, she's like, hey, stay here. Come here. I want to talk to you. I was like, oh, shit, what did I do wrong? She's like, no, that was really great. What you did was amazing. I want you to come tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock and be here at, at the studios. It was Stu Siegel Studios. He was the big producer of it. And I went there, and I auditioned for the role, and I got it. My first audition. And I got my Screen Actors Guild card. And I was now a professional working actor.
Wow.
And during all of that, Jonathan, I was brainwashed cult baby.
Yeah.
Because I did it and I stayed there, kept on acting. I was out of the cult. In 94, I'd moved up to Los Angeles finally.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran into Hoyt one night with our mutual friend. Hoyt's been friends with him for years. Fabio, you guys remember Fabio?
Yeah.
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 Great guy, by the way. He's nothing like everybody portrays him. Nothing. I love Fabio. He's solid. Fabio, cheers, brother.
Cheers.
I
I just remember his commercials mostly.
Can't believe it's not butter.
I can't believe it's not butter.
That's right. I can't believe it's not butter. Yeah. He plays all that up, but guy speaks two languages fluently. I think he might speak 3.
Sure. Wow.
And Fabio
Smart
doesn't
dude.
need any of the Hollywood. He doesn't
Yeah.
need it. His family is old guard money.
Uh-huh.
He's set for life. He doesn't have to do any of it. He just does it because it's fun.
Sure.
And hey, what the hell?
Yeah.
But I met up Hoyt at this restaurant that I just started working in, and he told me that Freddie had died like a few months after I'd gotten kicked out. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get back to you. Where are you guys now? He goes, oh, we're in North Carolina. And so within like a month, maybe month and a half, went back to the cult.
Wow. Even though the leader was gone?
Even though he was dead. Even though he was dead. Yeah, that's how strong. That's why I say it's not a psychological thing.
Mm-hmm.
Although, it is, a mental construct when we talk about brainwashing. The foundation of it is emotional. And that's where everyone makes a mistake. So people try to talk it out and go like, well, that doesn't make sense, Sean. You shouldn't be talking about 666 while you're drinking beer. You're going to invoke the satanic spirits of Beelzebub. It's like, no, dude, he's just having a piss. He's drinking a beer. The show's called Persuasion by the Pint. Lighten up.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So that's interesting because I think a lot of times we have this misconception, and just as you said that with the cult being about the leader, but when I hear you tell that story, it's like it's about the community as much as anything, or is it something else?
So you said something earlier, and I don't remember what it was.
Me either.
Happens all the time, right? This getting old thing. What drives people? So we were talking about needs getting met. Jonathan mentioned that.
Right.
So one of the things that I really leaned into heavily and really helped me was something that Tony Robbins, who I alternately like and dislike at the same time. I think he's done a lot of good, and I think he's also done some stuff that he should atone for.
Yeah.
And maybe even follow his own words.
Sure.
He goes by something he calls the 6 human needs. And all he did was rebrand something for himself. So he had something to say, I made this, and good on him. It's marketing. It's smart. It's branding. He borrowed that from Abraham Maslow,
right,
who had the hierarchy
of needs.
Right. So in those needs, the first four of Robbins' needs are certainty. Then you have uncertainty / variety. Then you have significance, and then you have love and connection. Those first 4 are needs of the personality. They have to be met. They cannot be ignored, and they will be met, whether it's good or bad. The last 2 are growth and then contribution. The last 2 are needs of the spirit, and those needs are the only way that a person really feels true joy and happiness. But the point I'm trying to make is a sense of meaning and a sense of purpose. So what ironically happened, I noticed with these groups, with any group, whether it's MLM group, Nexium, the Eternal Values, the MAGA crowd, forgive me if I'm just telling you the truth, guys. Whoever's listening to this. By the way, I was in a cult, for the love of God, before you get too angry at me. What happens is you're getting a need met, a spiritual need, and you feel you're a part of something bigger than you, greater than you.
Yeah.
And if you stop and think about things through that lens, it's very clear and it's very easy to understand how an insurrection against the Capitol could have happened on January 6th. Because those people weren't just going to have a laugh. They weren't just going because it would look cool on Facebook Live, which, my God, who would do that, right? They were going because it was something bigger than them. It was something more important than them. It was legacy.
Sure. Yeah. Everybody, I think, aspires to be part of something bigger than themselves, or most people do. I would say most people that are drawn into, organizations or cults like that, they want to be part of something. They want to have a legacy. Cause I think, people as they get older, they start to, our needs, like you were talking about the hierarchy of needs, and needs start to shift. Early you're trying to figure life out. Right. As you get older, as you mature some, you start to think about your, what kind of legacy you're going to leave, or right. what you're actually doing, what you're in this, on this planet for, what you've been put here for.
Exactly. And incidentally, what you just hit the nail on the head, that was my driving thing.
Yeah.
I've moved over 80 times in my life. Now, the mother load of those moves were after I moved out of my parents' house.
Yeah.
But before then, I want to say we moved like 20 to 30 times. We moved all the time. And that's like one of the, if you look at the list of stressors, and it varies depending on what, where you're getting your information from, moving is one of the top 3 to 5. It's very stressful.
Yep.
And I was always left wondering, what the hell are we doing here? Why are we even on this planet?
Right.
Why do we move all the time? Why do I have this funny Iranian name? Why do I look like a white guy? Like what's going on?
Yeah.
But you're right. You're right on it. You guys must talk about this stuff a lot.
Yeah, we do every once in a while, once a week or so.
So I'm curious. Let me flip the script. What got you guys interested, and how did you meet and put together something like this? Because this is pretty unusual. I think it's cool, by the way.
Yeah,
you could even say it's Mick-cool.
Mick-cool. You could say that. You could say that.
You could say that.
I should be arrested.
And it's been tailored to a fine point.
Ooh,
so,
lovely.
There you go. Nice play there, Sean. Nice.
There you go. Had to get Jonathan involved. Yeah, no, it's a good question. And we met through some friends, and we were in kind of a little weekly kind of mastermind where we just kind of get together and talk business.
Not a cult, a mastermind.
Not a cult, just a little mastermind. And
business mastermind.
A lot of it fell apart, but then Jonathan and I kind of kept in touch, and we would meet up at this, like a franchise type pub that they have over here in Tennessee, or over there.
Casual Pint.
Casual Pint. That's the name of it.
That's right.
So we would just talk shop, and Jonathan's in sales, and I'm copywriter, marketing. That's what I've been doing for the last. I
was just going to ask you guys that.
10 years. I was in sales before that. My dad was a salesman, so that's what I fell into.
So we love talking marketing, sales, persuasion. Sean being a copywriter, and so I know, and you with your background, obviously in hypnotherapy, and I'm sure that to a degree in Hollywood, people think that, your agent's out there doing all the work for you. And I think that that's total, people completely have it all wrong, because there's a lot of hustle involved in sales and marketing, right?
It's all hustle. It's all. If I'm not picking up the phone, if I'm not sending emails, if I'm not going out to parties, which look like parties, but it's really that's a work evening for me.
Sure.
If I'm not doing that, nothing's going to happen, man. Nothing.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you're right.
It's all about connections, networking connections.
It's like anything, right? Any business is built on relationship.
Sure.
Just like we're coming back into cult. It's all relationship. It's all emotional. And it's so funny because you guys can attest to this, because you've worked in sales, and now you're involved in marketing. Yeah. I remember when I first got in sales, I was like, this is some bullshit. I'm spending all this time having to explain and educate the prospect, whoever I'm talking to. They need information to know what's up before I even get here. Why waste my time? Right. That's what got me interested in marketing. But
well, that's what I say. I tell people we're all in sales. I don't care what you're doing in life. Preach. We're all in sales. That's okay. Right. So you're selling in your industry, whatever that industry is.
That's right. You're selling your friend when you're telling them about a movie you saw.
Exactly.
That they have to see.
That's right.
You're selling your wife when you say, "Oh, baby, we got to go to this restaurant."
Yeah.
Yep.
You're selling your kid. Listen, man, you don't want to do that, because I'm going to put a rusty spike through your chest.
Exactly.
Well, maybe not. Just kidding. Maybe that was just my childhood. I got threatened that way.
I saw.
Jonathan and I are from Georgia, from the South, so we got threatened with switches and like pick your own switch off that bush in the front yard. That was.
What is that about?
Yeah, really.
I don't know.
What part of Georgia is your wife from?
She's from Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. How about you guys?
I'm from Well, I grew up in both Augusta and Athens, or just outside of Athens.
Go Dogs.
Yeah. Go Dogs. Yeah, we're both Georgia guys. So
all right.
We got the weekend off this weekend. So
it's interesting. You do have the weekend off, don't you?
Yes.
You guys got a damn
I
good.
don't know what to do with my hands this weekend because I'm like, no remotes.
I'm sure people can give you some suggestions.
Yes.
I got involved in marketing when I got out of the cult the second time, when I escaped for good in late '96.
Mm-hmm.
My parents had bought a small print and copy shop, and I became the marketing and sales guy. And I discovered, and I don't remember how, it doesn't matter, but direct response marketing. This was really before the internet had even really taken off. Email was a thing, the web was a thing. The TV networks were starting to say, you can find us at NBC.com and stuff like that.
Sure.
But, I wasn't, it just wasn't as big as it is now. And these direct response marketers caught my attention because they were talking about writing 8-page, letters. And I was like, 8 pages, wow. But they were effective and they were working and stuff. And so I kind of just dove into it. and in doing that, 2 things happened. I was able to increase the sales of the business by 400% within a year and a half before the internet. So I was like licking stamps and putting them on envelopes and mailing stuff out and all kinds of other things. And my parents were subsequently able to sell the business and retire. But I didn't expect any of this. Yeah. I started to understand the power of the written word and the spoken word, mm-hmm. and the levers of persuasion, and that a lot of these cats in internet marketing / direct response marketing, because that's what internet marketing is now. I think it's funny. They're like internet marketers.
Yeah.
It's all you are as a direct response marketer. You ought to know what you come from. Whose shoulders you're standing on. They get dark and they master the arts of dark persuasion, which is mm-hmm. unfortunate.
Yeah.
And it becomes very cult-like, ironically.
Sure.
And there was a guy, he's still out there. His real name is Ross Paul, but he calls himself Paul Jeffries. Ross Jeffries. And he had a thing called like speed seduction or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I had to go meet this guy, and I met him. And he's a trip. He doesn't even believe half the bullshit that he writes. He kept on trying to convince me and my buddy this night, that's my marketing personality. That's my marketing personality. I'm like, well, bitch, that's what you say all the time. So, I mean, you got to own it at some point. But I digress. The thing was, I realized that, oh shit, this was used on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Mm-hmm. And so then I have to learn NLP. And so I went and learned it and became a master practitioner and got my certificate, as well as my certificate for hypnosis, the hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
And it's a trip. I mean, you guys know, you've talked about it, I'm sure, a million times. But
have you ever read Cialdini? Robert Cialdini's
Cialdini, absolutely.
Yeah, Cialdini. Yeah. So I find it always interesting when, backing up on the cults, one of the things he talks about is commitment and consistency. That's one of the principles of influence that he talks about. And, in every cult, I was just thinking, backing up to, well, we could talk about marketing, we could talk about cults, but he's talking about in the book how people, once they commit to something, they want to be consistent. They want to be, they don't want to look irrational, right?
That's right.
Unless it's a diet.
Or diet.
Unless it's a diet, then it's like, no.
Unless it's a diet or a man or a woman they're interested in.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The tummy and the groin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's right about that. It's always interesting when I first read his stuff, because he's so, he's academic. He's a professor of it. So he's removed from it emotionally,
mm-hmm.
man, does that brother break it down. And
Oh,
he's
it's
right.
amazing.
You know, first of all, you will never affect any change in your life until you change your identity of yourself.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
And so that's what he's talking about when he says, when people make a commitment to something, even if it's a small micro commitment, they will do whatever they have to maintain the identity that they've given themselves, real or perceived in their mind, with this person they're talking with or with this group they're involved in. That's a great point, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, one of the questions that when I'm writing copy that I always try to answer for the reader is, am I the type of person who would buy this product or this service or whatever it is? Right. So you got to get them saying yes to that. Because if they don't see themselves as a person, you know, and you do that through, you know, 6 or 7 different types of proof, but you have to let them see that I'm the type of person. And, you know, if we go to Hollywood, I mean, right. I mean, that's what trailers do for movies. Like, you want the trailer to resonate with the type of person that usually watches that type of movie.
Sure.
If you want to get a new audience, then you'd have to do a different type of trailer that would bring in. So if you've got more of a mystery movie, you know, I think of like M. Night Shyamalan. I can't say his last name.
You said it right.
Shyamalan the Bing Dong, something like that. Like, so if you look at his, it's kind of on the line between like mystery and horror, depending on who you talk to. Like, so you'd have to have a different type of trailer to pull both of those audiences in. Yeah. To say, oh yeah, I'm the kind of person that would watch that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
they do split testing, like, you know, in copywriting world, the marketing world. You got to split test this headline against this headline, this ad against this ad copy, and then of course this trailer against this trailer. And in movies, you know, this ending versus this ending. You know, you got to see what they resonate to and what's going to sell and what's going to get that return on the dollar.
And how do they do that? That's interesting. Like, how do they do that before the movie's released?
Well, they have businesses out here that specifically hire, you know,
focus groups,
out of work actors and models and, you know, whatever, anybody they can get, warm body who's going to show up. And then they know most people won't show up because they maybe have a drinking problem, drug problem,
sure,
or, you know, don't have any money, whatever the hell's going on in their life. And then they go out there and they try to, you know, hey, I see you, you know, John. I'd be like, hey, man, listen, I got 2 tickets to the new, you know, whatever movie. You want to go see it? You just got to have to answer a short questionnaire afterwards.
Oh, so it's
totally free.
It's a timeshare presentation.
Timeshare presentation, amazing.
Hey, I did sell timeshare for a while. So
no, you didn't.
Talk about a cult.
He had
to shower for 2 weeks after he got out.
I did, man. I lasted about a month, and I was like, "Whoa, this is some weird stuff."
That stuff is that's nefarious. They're devious. Yeah,
it was crazy.
As I call them, they're shit weasels.
South Park did a great episode on it. So I don't know who the writer was of that.
Is it amazing that those 2 guys who were influenced by Mormonism and then lived in Denver, I believe, come to Hollywood and they're like, yeah, let's just take a piss at everything. We'll just make it a cartoon.
Yeah.
Here they are now. What is it? 25 years later?
Yeah, no sacred cows there. They're everything's open.
You can get away with murder. Talking about influence, you can get away with murder.
Yeah.
You can get away with the most horrific stuff you can imagine. Taboo subjects, sexual topics that are out of bounds, religious, anything.
Right.
If it's a cartoon.
If it's a cartoon, that's amazing. Yeah.
Right. And at the end of the show, they killed Kenny. You know, respect my authority. You know, and then everyone starts laughing. They're like,
so I'm curious, what's your favorite? You've been on both sides. You played the bad guy, and then you played a good guy. I guess. I mean, you call it a good guy, but. So what's your favorite role to play?
Bad guy.
Bad guy. Yeah.
Every day. It's way more fun.
Yeah.
You're not. So when you play the good guy, you're hamstrung. You know, you've always got to have that big smile. Right. And you've always got to say something really sweetly.
Right.
You know,
right.
And which is all fine and great, but I'm amping it up a little bit.
Sure.
But the bad guy, the bad girl, the bad woman, whatever, you don't have any governor on you.
No.
Yeah.
At all. There really are no walls. There are no boundaries that you can't cross. And that is fantastic. You know, I mean, it's just so much fun.
And you're an intimidating bad guy too. I got to tell you.
I have resting bitch face. If I don't smile,
I mean, you got the high, you're 6'3", I mean, you play it really well. I mean, I've watched you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
you're very intimidating.
I never realized how true that was until I got into Hollywood. And then, the casting process and the casting directors and just the whole casting process, it's really kind of interesting and mind-blowing at the same time, because you realize, oh, wow, this is how I'm viewed. This is how people see me. Like, I was always playing these white, rich, frequently racist, frequently conservative, frequently nasty guys who were authority figures, presidents, prime ministers, CEOs, billionaires.
Yep.
And I was
like Silicon Valley. You played the
I played a billionaire in Silicon Valley.
Yep.
And it's weird because so that's not really who I am.
Right.
But I can play that, sure. And I do, I am tall, I do have a deep voice. And if I don't smile, it does look like I may disembowel you or take your head off. I don't know. I like to keep that open.
Sure.
But then you get on the set and for example, so on Silicon Valley, the night that I shot was a night shoot. And I get there and I find out that I'm going up against, I don't know if you guys remember, TJ Miller played Ehrlichman, and Jimmy Yang played, what they call him? Chang or Yang. And these guys are both stand-up comedians, and they're no slouches. And it's like, so Dar, let's just improv this. And I'm like, let's just improv because that'll be fun. I just have to keep up with two trained comedians.
Sure.
Sure. No pressure.
Yeah.
But I did, and we had a lot of fun doing it. Later, there was a break in between setting up a different shot. And Mike Judge is the creator of that show.
Yeah.
He and Alec Berg. And Alec was directing that. And Mike was just he came on the set that night to see what was up. We were at this mansion in Beverly Hills. And I saw him and he's like, hey, and I go, hey man, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And he kind of looked at me like, why the fuck are you talking to me? And I realized that I looked like most of the male extras. I was in a tuxedo and a bow tie. But they hadn't given me any delineation, like a silver kerchief or something to make me stand out. And so he thought, why is this extra talking to me? Go away or I'm going to fire you, right? But what are you going to do? Everybody on the set treats me like I'm that guy. It's weird.
Right.
It's a weird place to be. So
wow. So what have you learned from all of, you're studying both persuasion, making your way out of the cult, all these different things. How do you apply that just like in day-to-day making it through Hollywood, which
good question.
I mean, you've been there, you survived it a long time. A lot of people come and go. It's kind of like the NFL, not for long. Like
100%. 100%.
So what have you done? How have you taken all these different understandings and learnings, or which ones have you found the most useful to apply to a career in Hollywood?
Wow. God, that's a really good question. I knew I was going to like this podcast. I'm serious. I was like, Persuasion by the
We get deep sometimes. I mean, sometimes we go really deep.
The alcohol store gets some good questions flowing.
I can do small talk. Like it's part of my business, but really, I don't give a fuck what Kim Kardashian wore. Kanye had a great. Okay, what's next? I don't have a set answer. What I can say is this: that first of all, I just did this interview for Authority Magazine and Thrive Global. It's Ariana Huffington is behind it, and it's these new online magazine. And I did this piece on resilience, and I had to develop some resilience in my life for sure. And so that's always a part of my makeup, but it's been invaluable in Hollywood because, like you said, it's not for long here. Everyone comes here and they're like, oh, I'm going to be a movie star in a month. I'm going to give myself a month, or I'm going to give myself a year. People say that. And I'm like, okay, I'll see you later. In my mind, I never would say that to them, right? Because I always hope for the best. But if you're thinking like that, and I see you again in 2 months, and you're still talking like that, and you're on the clock already. Yeah. You have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to pivot on a dime. Improvisation, not only in a scene like I was talking about, but taking those same skills to life, it's invaluable. Yeah. And then as far as persuasion and influence goes, this happens everywhere, but we always get taken. We always take the brunt of the hits for it in Hollywood. And I suppose rightly so, because let's be honest, man, I just happen to have a job where I stand in front of a camera and like they polish my teeth and whiten my eyes and shine, take the shine off my forehead and put me in a really beautiful suit and tie or some kind of other cool wardrobe. And then I say these lines that I didn't write. And, I put my take on it. People are like, I saw you on TV. Oh my God. And you're like, trust me when I tell you, I have to drop my pants and sit on the toilet just like you did. Yeah. So, but the thing that is that emotional manipulation happens so frequently. It's kind of like, it's really bad, man. And it's really one of the main traps that people get caught up in. It's one of the main traps in interpersonal relationships with one's spouse or loved one or girlfriend or boyfriend, amongst buddies, Yeah. It's probably a little bit less with guys, but we always bitch out every once in a while. And that's no disparagement to the ladies, because guys are some of the biggest bitches I've ever met. But, being able to identify when I'm being emotionally manipulated, being able to identify when someone's like dangling a red herring and trying to create a straw man argument, it's invaluable in being able to navigate the waters. When I first started to do interviews and press or go to like, for example, here's a perfect example. When you go to an audition in Hollywood, what you don't realize at the time is that is a meeting. Okay. And it's less about what you think it is, which is about, how do I look? Do I sound great? Oh, what do they think of me? And although those things are at play, and it's more about, they're looking at you like, so would I want to work with Sean? Could I stand to be on a movie set with that guy for the next 2 months? Or is he just going to be like always needy and wanting something? Is he funny? Does he know his lines? Can he take direction? What kind of oh God, I don't know. That's what's going on there. Sure. And so you've always got to know how to put your best foot forward while still being yourself, and that's not easy. And that's one of the reasons this is like the NFL, the not for long league.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great point for, I know as a freelancer, one of the things that has made me successful is my ability to talk to clients and assure them of things like that. Like, I'm going to be okay to work with, that, projects, things like that. Jonathan, I know in your sales, like they're buying your product, but they're buying you because you're going to, because they gotta
buy from the person. Right.
Yeah. And they need to know that that person is going to, come in and do whatever's needed if something goes wrong, or if there's
so what are we talking about?
Yeah.
We're talking about relationship. We're talking about trust, and both of those are built upon emotion.
Right.
Yep.
Right. You guys can speak. Would you guys agree everything is based in emotion?
Oh yeah. For the most part.
Yeah. I think, we're definitely like,
how about this?
Creatures first.
Exactly. In the sales process and the marketing process, what are you appealing to? My logic or my emotion?
Emotion every time.
First.
Every time. And then what do? They come back in their mind and try to find logical reasons to
justify. They justify it by logic decision. Every time. Yeah.
That's how people get caught in cults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so hard. You can't think your way out of a cult. You have to feel your way out of brainwashing. You have to feel your way out of it. And that's
yeah, man, it's amazing, because we talk about I'm trying to think of the term gaslighting, right? Because my wife and I go back and forth because we banter. She, and it's all play, and I gaslight her a lot, but it's not serious. It's not serious gaslighting. It's pretend gaslighting.
It's minor, yeah.
It's light gaslighting.
Your honesty is refreshing.
But no, I mean, you see a lot of that everywhere, this day. And then if I'm sure you're experiencing a cult, and even Hollywood and just so many so much of that plays into everything, where you have to question your own sanity. Like, people.
Oh yeah. You're right. I mean, I have this real respect for both you guys because you work in sales and marketing,
Mhm.
and so necessarily you understand the human experience and human nature and human beings
Sure.
on a level that most people don't. They just don't.
Or choose not to.
Yeah, I was just going to say that they really
or bury it. Yeah, I don't want to think about that.
and that's what I was talking about earlier. The burying it, you just push that feeling down,
sure,
lock it away, and you never look at it again.
Right.
And man, I wish people wouldn't do that. I wish they would just like lean into it and just sit with it and be curious about it, because that's the most healthy way to go.
Absolutely.
But there's always gaslighting going on, and there's always, that attempt to make you. It's emotional manipulation, that you're crazy, that what you're seeing, what you're feeling, and what you're hearing isn't what's happening, even though the emperor literally is not wearing any clothes.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's.
I can imagine when you were leaving this cult, there's probably a lot of gaslighting going on. Like, what are you? I mean,
when I left, there was we had a huge legal case, me and my buddy and his now wife, then girlfriend. I can't get into everything now because it's a really long story. But the long and the short of it is, we had a big legal case against us, and the police department threw a bunch of charges against us that were trumped up, and it was bad. And so I knew I had to get away, because that's when we kind of slid in. And this happens with all groups, all cults, all MLM groups, political factions, whatever. They invariably slide to the far right. And you get involved necessarily with hate speech, with racists, with nationalists, and white supremacists. That's just the facts. That's not my opinion. That's not conjecture. Those are facts, and you can look it up and double check me. And that's what happened with our group. We had begun that slide, and that's where we ended up going. And we got caught up with these guys that were part of these militia groups that were burgeoning. This was in '96. And so we'd already had the Waco incident in the country as a nation, and we already had Ruby Ridge. And we'd already had Oklahoma City. So 3 white supremacist, white nationalist, militia, conspiracy theorists, major domestic terrorist attacks. And that's what these guys were. And they're like, oh man, you don't even listen to those charges they filed. You file this paperwork instead. And I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. But everyone else was like, yeah, do that. And it made everything infinitely worse. Getting out of that situation was mission 1 for me.
Sure.
Second mission was, and it was kind of right in with mission 1, I had to make them think that it was their idea. I'm not the brightest guy in the world. Trust me. I'm not. And I had to think how to get out of that. And while I was doing it, prepare myself to what you said, for them to gaslight me. Now, we didn't even use that word in the 90s. Sure. But I knew they were going to come at me with a bunch of, I just call it bullshit. And how was I going to handle that? And to this day, I couldn't tell you how I did it. I just knew what I wanted to do and what I wanted to have happen. And that's what based every one of my decisions and actions from that point. But yeah, they did. You're right. They did.
Wow.
Interesting.
Well, let me flip as we wind up here. Let me flip to a little bit lighter question, because it's something I've always been curious about.
All right.
I'll be watching a good show, and I just, as someone who writes, I get caught up. Like, I notice the writing. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Sometimes it ruins movies. Sometimes it makes it even better, because I'm like, it's like, oh, that's so good. Like the way they did that. Have you ever worked in like a writer's room where there's multiple writers? Like, I'm curious, like what that dynamic is. That's like one of my dreams, is to be in a writer's room and see that process. And I'm sure I'm like romanticizing it. But
Well, you are a
Yeah,
little bit.
of course.
It smells
Go
like
ahead,
a lot
burst
of,
Sean's bubble.
I know, right?
Yeah, no. Writers' rooms smell faintly of desperation, body odor, and bad food decisions.
Okay.
I'll just
Makes
let that
sense.
sit for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Writers' rooms are really interesting places because I'm making fun. They do stink normally because there's incredible pressure and you
Mhm.
can't leave. So like your personal hygiene and burping and farting, that's a given. And you got to get the job done. And there's a lot of flop sweat. There's a lot of stress sweat, and so
Yeah.
that's why I make that joke. But that is based in reality. But for all of that, it's not easy to get into a writer's room. You have to be proven. You have to
Mhm.
have stuff that's good. You have to be known. You have to be a known entity. And then you have to, like we talked about earlier, is this someone I want to sit in a room with for hours at a time, crafting an entire season or seasons of this series, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And because man, there's nothing worse than you're sitting in a room and I make like you just can't stand me and I can't stand you. Like, how the
Yeah.
fuck is any creativity going to come out of that? That's
Yeah.
like
Right.
that's a chokehold. You're dead.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting place to be, and it's also, but for me, the thing that's most fascinating, I'll never forget. I went to an audition on what lot was I on? Warner's. I was on the Warner's lot. Warner Brothers. And Conan's show was there.
Mhm.
And his offices were right next to this casting director's office. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I'm sitting in the waiting room, and it's just me and one other woman. And it was like, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning. And next door, and the walls are pissed thin, is the writers' meeting. And I'm
Mhm.
listening to Conan and his writers, and they're pitching him ideas, and he's summarily dismissing this idea, and they're rolling with that one, and that idea stops and it goes off. Remember that time when we were in Venice and you shit your pants on the hotel steps? And they're going on for 20 minutes, and I'm just like, amazing. I should just turn my phone on and record this because no one would believe it.
Yeah.
And so like that's the fun part of it. But
Yeah.
what you don't realize if you don't know, like I'm making fun and telling you the truth at the same time, but that type of thing is necessary because it breeds creativity. And,
Right.
and it breeds creativity because it loosens and frees the spirit so that there aren't taboo topics. I can swear, I can make bad jokes, right? I can be socially and psychologically and whatever inappropriate, because you need that kind of freedom in order to find the solution to your problem.
Sure.
Okay. How is Mary going to divorce Steve while she's got to prepare for this life and death, this death penalty sentence tomorrow in front of the Supreme Court? Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun. Right?
Mhm.
There you go, man. That's the best answer I can give you right now.
Yeah.
Without another Stella, which I already finished.
Well, I think that's cool. I've always wondered what that's like, and I know there's like you said, the stinky side. I can see how that would certainly happen. Yeah, I think because I write a lot of stuff alone, so it's there's those days.
That's
It's
tough, man.
it's like there's those
Tip my
days you're
hat to
like,
you.
hey, can I just get like 3 people in here and we just put this on a whiteboard and just start
Yeah.
banging it out.
I wasn't going to get into that, but that's the other cool part, because
Yeah.
they do have the whiteboard, and
Yeah.
they do have the cork board, or whatever they have, like a felt covered board, and they've got the whole each season on different colored index cards, and that they still use that frequently, a lot of
Yeah.
them, even to this day. I mean, I think almost everyone does, because you need to have a visual. I'm in the middle of writing. I'm solitary, I'm writing by myself, and I'm like, fuck, why can't I just like have like 4 people here and I could bounce this off of them right now and I could solve this problem in about 10 minutes or less? But it's just me. And then I get hungry, and then my ear itches, and then the phone rings or whatever's going on. It's nuts. And like I keep on saying to myself, like you just said, Sean, I wish I had up in front of me the whole board and I could see each chapter. And like, but I'm not set up to do that here at the house because we're in the middle of a pandemic and. But that's the cool part of it too, because It makes it easier. And then, like with anything, 10 heads or even 6 heads are better than one every day of the week.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where digital, word processing or, has actually stifled creativity a little bit.
I agree.
Because you can't, you used to have to lay stuff out, or,
Mm-hmm.
it was more tangible. And I mean, Jonathan and I both bought these new Remarkable tablets
Yeah.
they're like handwriting.
Oh, wow.
But it's a tablet. They're not connected to anything. So you're not like
cool.
an iPad. So you're not getting notifications and all that kind of stuff. But they're pretty cool. And that's helped me a little bit. Like if I need to go outside and just sit somewhere and still write, and capture it, be able to convert it.
Oh, that's
digitally.
brilliant.
It's kind of a fun tool. But yeah, I think having a writing buddy is something more people should do, including myself.
But then when you get into well, I mean, I can't speak to copywriting, but in my world in Hollywood, whenever you have a partner come in, then things get complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it? Who
Right.
wrote that?
Yeah. I can see that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that you have to have a high level of trust.
Trust. For sure.
No doubt. Well, Dar, this has been fantastic. We really appreciate your time. I know it's gone over a lot longer than what we
I haven't even looked. Have we gone over a while? Where are we at?
No, I mean, we're
right
happy.
on.
I mean, I hope we haven't kept you, but it's been fun.
I blocked out 2 hours because I thought, you know what? These cats are talking about persuasion. I just have a feeling this is going to be a little bit more interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This has been great, honestly. Great conversation.
Give us a little preview when when the book, you're writing this book. What's the,
I've got the mother load of the book done. What I'm doing now is I'm doing my own first formatting of it. And then I've got editors. I've got friends who are going to be doing passes at it, like not passes, but editing and helping with the formatting. And I think dude, it's writing.
Yeah.
I hope I have it done within the next month. It could happen sooner. It could happen a little bit longer. But I haven't settled on a title yet.
Yeah.
Haven't settled on, but I wasn't going to let that hamstring me. Some people never start the first word because they can't think of a title.
Exactly.
Don't do that to yourself.
Yep. Nope.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I get in that sometimes. I want the title first, but then I invariably find the best titles come somewhere.
After you start writing, it kind of just jumps out at you or just comes out of your subconscious. You're like, oh my God, that's it.
Yeah. Same with subject lines for emails.
And sometimes the publisher changes the title. Whatever you come up with, they'll change it. So I mean, it's like, dang it. Why did I even try?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's a whole other thing. I may get a publisher down the road. I may try to get this published by one of the big houses, but I'm not putting that pressure on top of myself. I'm going to self-publish this first one. If it happens later, if there's another iteration or two, which I think there will be, so be it. If I'm starting my memoir right after it, talking about the cult because everyone wants to know about it. By the way, guys, I never used to talk about this for 20 some odd years. I didn't want to be viewed through that frame, that lens of cult guy. And now I just don't care.
Sure.
And I have a facility where I can talk about it. I mean, back in the day, if I tried to talk about it, I'd get choked up and I'd start crying and I wouldn't stop for 20 minutes. Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, how can people find out more? I know you've got a website. You also have a podcast, The Art of Being Dar.
Yeah, The Art of Being Dar with Dar Dixon. Yeah. You can go to my podcast. That's going to probably drastically start to change as I start to talk about the subject matter of the book and the cult and more. I really haven't leaned into that too much. You can go to my website, dardixon.com, DARDIXON. And then you can also go and see what I've been up to in Hollywood on IMDb.com, Internet Movie Database. Yeah. It's funny. I heard you say that. And I didn't think about that. I've done so many gigs, but IMDb only puts up, the ones that are professional in terms of being, union gigs.
That's right.
And, most actors aren't as fortunate as the A-list. And so you've got to get your hustle on. And frequently, even with A-listers, with very rare exceptions, what you see listed on something like IMDb or any of these other sites that claim to have people's, film credits.
Yeah.
It's far more extensive than that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like when I'm on Netflix or Amazon Prime Video, it's like you pick a movie by an A-list actor, and then it'll say also appeared in, and you see all these other movies. You're like, really? Had no idea they were an extra in Sharknado. That's amazing.
Oh yeah!
Wow!
Oh, yeah. The hustle is real. Yeah. I'm friends. We're friends with Samuel L. Jackson and his wife Latanya.
Oh, cool!
And
man.
they actually, we went to their house for dinner one night. And there were a bunch of other people there. I won't name drop because Marlon Brando told me never to do that.
That's awesome.
Thank you. But it was
the rim shot for
that.
Yeah, I know.
It was a cool party, but at one point, Sam took me up to his office, and he's like, "Dar, come on, let's go check out the office." All right, let's go, Sam. So we go upstairs and we go to his office, and it's like you walk in there, and now, at the time he wasn't, but as of 2 years ago, he is the biggest box office star in the history of Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is fucking fantastic. But it's a black.
He's in everything.
American.
I mean,
that's what I'm talking about. And I'm looking up
his
on
Capital
the wall,
One
like,
commercials.
oh shit!
Oh yeah,
that's right. You were in that.
Yeah,
you were in that. He's like, oh man, come on, man. Brother can't turn down work, and we start laughing and stuff. It was really pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was really pretty cool. I actually got to. I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but he did do Mace Windu. He was in Star Wars.
Sure. Yeah.
And out of
people forget that
in the office, man, the thing he liked the most was like, hold the lightsaber, and I was like, yeah, okay. and I just saw the look in his face, and he was just like beaming. And he's done Pulp Fiction and The Hateful Eight, and True Romance, Do the Right Thing. Like, dude, it's unbelievable. Snakes in a Plane, all this stuff. And he's sitting here and he's got this smile like a kid because I'm holding a lightsaber. And I was like, wow, man. If I could figure out something that has that effect on an audience and like a Star Wars thing, that type of a story, that's something to think about.
So we'll end on this. Do you think Dune's going to be a box office hit? Yes or no?
Wow. I'm not a science fiction fan. I saw the original Dune. I sat next to my friend who's a huge Dune fan, and he was trying to explain to me what was going on, and I had no idea.
That releases today as we're recording this. So
I don't know. I'm hearing the same thing. People are like, I was underwhelmed. It was confusing, and I need to.
That's how I felt about the first one.
That's how I felt about the first one too.
I was lost.
I don't know where they're going to go with it.
Yeah. Be interesting to see if they can update it for modern times. So.
I think the spice really affects everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed. By the way, Samuel Jackson, his meme, he's got a lot of meme cred from Pulp Fiction. That's where he gets his meme cred from.
And by the way, if I could have a career where I was known for one word, you motherfucker.
MF.
Someone sent me a meme, and it's Sam sitting in a car, and I don't know what film it's from, but he's sitting in a car. He's got his glass on. He's just got his game face on, and it says, "Get in the car, motherfucker. We're going to go do motherfuckering." And I was like, amazing.
Yeah, I would say
I could watch that one scene forever where he says, "Say what one more time." Pulp Fiction.
What? Wow. Amazing. We went to Sam's birthday party 2 years ago. He turned 70. Mm-hmm. And he was in New York because Latanya was on Broadway doing To Kill a Mockingbird. And it was amazing. If you get a chance to go to Sam's birthday party, you go to that party. It's the part. It's like every party that Hollywood portrays in the movies. Yeah. It's that cool. It was amazing. Awesome. And it was supposed to be like a speakeasy type of thing. And so Sam was dressed in, that era, that kind of era of clothing. Mm-hmm. And when I got up close to him, he took his jacket off because it was too hot and everyone was dancing and stuff. And, but on his jacket, he had them, I don't know how they did it, but in the fabric was written every title of every single film he did.
Wow.
I was like, damn.
That's
You
cool.
filled the entire inside of your jacket lining with your film resume.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
All right, Jonathan,
Dar,
I'll let you wrap it up.
Thank you so much. Again, Dar Dixon, you can find him over at dardixon.com. Dar, it's been a pleasure, man. We'll be posting a link, also sharing your podcast, which I've subscribed to, and I've actually listened to, started the first 3 episodes, your first 3, and good stuff, man. So I would encourage people to check that out.
Whew. Thank you. I appreciate that. Whew. You never know. Like you guys know, you never know if this is going to hit or miss.
Nope. You never know. You never know.
You never know.
Hey, we're going to send you to the green room for a second. Would love to catch up after a minute or two. We're going to close out the show, and stay tuned.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Thanks. Good stuff, man. Loved it. Enjoyed that. It's kind of fascinating. Yeah. Take a little sneak peek, from somebody who's been there, done that from a number of different angles, right?
That's
Hollywood, cool. Cults.
Yeah. I feel like our show just took a whole nother level up or down.
Exactly.
Sure. Who knows? What the ratings tell us.
That's right. I think this will be a 2-parter, but it's good. So
have the main show and then an after party in true like Hollywood.
There you go. There you go. All right. For all of our listeners out there, thanks as always, for tuning in. You can catch us, persuasionbythepint.com. You can find us on all of your platforms, Stitcher Radio, iHeart, Spotify, you name it. And Sean, it's been a pleasure. We will see you all next week.
See ya.